So when setting a toilet bowl, should you use the old tried and true wax gasket, or should you try some of the newer technology available? I'll tell you what, guys, let's jump down to the bench. I'll lay it out for you, and then you can make your decision. I'll see you in a second. All right, here we are on top of my nifty little demonstration board, and I want to talk to you today a little bit about a couple of products that have been on the market a while, and I just wanted to introduce them to you in case you were wondering about, are they better than wax? Should I use them? How do they work, etc. So we're going to go over this, and hopefully I'll give you a little insight, and and you'll have a little more clarity on what to do. Now, just bear in mind, I can't demonstrate every scenario here up on the bench. I mean, you may have certain situations where you run into certain job conditions, and what you see here may not apply across the board. But I'm going to try to, clarify it to the point where if you do run across something, hopefully you'll be able to solve it. And if not, you could always reach out to me, info@bobsplumbingvideos.com. Anyway, back in the good old days, when I started back in way before 1978, I was doing this since I'm a kid. But anyway, the old reliable way to set a bowl was with wax. And it still is today. I still use it today. Good old wax gasket, inexpensive. Very inexpensive, and if you know what you're doing, it actually does the trick. It's a little messy, a little pain in the neck. When you pull a bowl off, you have to scrape all this off the flange, because once you set a bowl, this all kind of smushes out and gets all over the place, and it's kind of, nasty, if you will. So, of recent, a couple of manufacturers have come up with a different way of doing things. And here are two of them up on the board here. Now, on my right-hand side, your left is a product by Fluid Master. These are the people who make the fill valves for inside the toilet tank, and it's a rubber gasket. And simply, you would just sit this inside your flange and set your bowl down. And as you can see, there's no muss, no fuss. Now, this comes with a expandable horn, which would fit down inside of the flange. But I want to put a little asterisk by that, because depending upon the size of the flange, now you may have a flange, for instance, I'm going to show you when we get to this side here, this flange is made to glue inside of a piece of pipe. That being the case, this little rubber flapper does not fit inside of this flange. This flange actually is made to be glued inside of a fitting. And that being the case, it's got a wide enough opening here. So this little horn, if you will, sits down inside of here. And I'm going to put that over the bolts. And that fits in there nicely. And what the instructions tell you on both of these products is if it doesn't fit down inside of your flange, depending upon what kind of a flange you have, what they recommend, or what they say in their instructions, is to fold this up this way, pop it out and reverse it, and then put that down as such, and then proceed to set the bowl, which kind of like makes no sense to me. If that was going to be the case, if my horn didn't fit inside the flange, I personally would get a razor blade and cut this off, and I would simply I would cut it here, right at about this part here, and just simply get a straight razor and just cut this off, and then proceed, because this is a rubber gasket here, and I would just proceed to set this down on top of my toilet bolts, and then set down my bowl on top of this. What's nice about these things are that they kind of keep the bolts in one spot. With the wax, I'll put the wax down, and you kind of got to guess the bolts, where the bolts are going to be when you start lowering the bowl. Now, I personally put my wax on the flange. I know there are a lot of guys or a lot of people out there that put the wax on the bottom of the bowl before they lower it. I personally put my wax down first. I line up my bolts, and then I proceed to lower the bowl. So this product is by Fluid Master. Now, I don't endorse either one of these products. I'm just showing you what's out there. Now, this is kind of a unique product. It's made by a company called SANI-SEAL. Same concept, but as you can see, this is a much thicker it looks like a much more substantial, and it's soft and spongy uh, gasket. And same thing, this has, and you're going to see that I have this flange in here. I have it folded up because it doesn't fit inside of this toilet flange. Same thing, this comes with an expandable horn, if you will, and they tell you to lower this down, but as you can see here, if I take these bolts out, this does not sit down. So what they tell you to do is to just reverse it, then set it down on the bolts and proceed to set your bolt down. But I don't like this little floppy stuff going on here. You see this? I don't like this. So again, what I would do if it was me, I would just trim with a straight blade. I would just trim this off. Just take this off and then proceed to use this. And what's nice about these things are, again, they will kind of line up the bolts for you. So, you know, your bolts won't move as you go down. And again, let me fold this up. I'm just going to fold this up so this thing sits down for. So then you can proceed to put your bowl down, and as the bowl goes down naturally, this is going to smoosh out, and that's going to be really a nice seal. Actually, I kind of favor, if I had to have a personal favorite or was going to purchase these, I probably would go with this one. I think that, because, you know, a lot of times, a lot of floors aren't dead level. There's a little deviation in the floor. They're out of level. And this is more of a hard type of rubber product. And I could see this working when you have a dead level floor and everything is just perfect. But in a perfect world, that's not the way things work. Now, I will say that with both of these, they did supply the toilet bolts in the bag with both of them. Now, although they are 1/4 inch, I generally, you know, the bolts I use, you're going to see here, these are my own bolts, and you're going to see the difference. Mine are 5/16 versus 1/4 inch. I mean, they both work, but I think if with a thicker bolt, it's more substantial, and this is what I use. But they do come with the bolts supplied. I buy my wax gaskets bulk. I buy my flange bolts bulk. And yeah, these here, this retails for approximately like 12 to 14 bucks. And same thing with the fluid mask. The fluid mask is a little less. I think it's about, I don't know, 9 or 10 bucks. And you know, both, you know, not messy like the wax. But again, you know, you're going to spend a couple of more bucks. And again, if your floor is like really dead level and you really got a perfectly flat floor, I don't have a problem with this one here. I don't have a problem with this one here at all. But if you got a floor that's a little out of whack, if it's a little tilted or a little out of skew, I think the SANI-SEAL is going to work better for you. Now, as you can see here, I have these flanges. I'm going to take these off a second. These flanges on this board are, you know, set up to kind of simulate, you know, sitting on top of a finished tile floor, which is fine. Sometimes you'll see these flanges, depending upon the floor, who laid the tile, they may be flush with the floor, meaning they'll be even with the surface of the tile, which is fine. But situations come up when people decide they want to have a new tile floor put in, and what they do is they remove the bowl, remove the sink, and then they have their tile man come in. And ultimately, they raise the floor so much that what ends up happening, and I know you can't see this from that camera angle, and I'm going to move the camera. What ends up happening is that the tile goes way above the flange, and if that happens, you're going to be presented with a problem, because you can see this floor is way above. And when that happens, we're going to have to raise these flanges. And, you know, there's 2 ways to do that. You either make a major plumbing job out of it and you open up the floor and to raise the flange if you have to, depending upon what the material is. Now, if it's PVC, it's going to be a little more difficult. If it's lead pipe, a little easier. But, you know, lead is what happens here in New York City. In most parts of the country, it's PVC, it's ABS. Sometimes it's even cast iron. And you can get extended flanges, you know, with long horns on them, and they're relatively easy to change. But In general, what I'll do is I'll take spacers, and simply they're plastic spacers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move the camera. I just want to get a better shot for you, so when I explain this to you, you'll have a better handle on how these things work. But if you come across a situation where you ask a tile guy to come in and put a new tile floor in, and then he's all finished and everything's fine and well, and then you come in here and you see that your flange is well below the floor, you're going to have a problem setting the bowl. So let me stop the camera and I will reposition it, and I'll show you what I do when I have a floor that's really too far above my floor flange. I'll see you in a bit. All right, so here we are, and hopefully you can see here that this floor, I'm simulating a situation where the tile floor has come so far above the flange that it's going to present a problem, trying to set this bowl and trying to keep it watertight. So when I run across a situation like this, I use spacers. They make stackable spacers. Different companies make them. They come in white, they come in black, whatever I can get, that's what I use. So what I would do in a situation like this is I would absolutely clean this the best I could. And I usually carry myself a can of lacquer thinner around, and I would clean this off, and one by one, depending upon how high I have to stack these, I am gonna, proceed to build the height I need. Now, what I will do is I will put a bead of silicone underneath these. That's after I wipe them with my lacquer. Then I'm going to put a nice bead of silicone in here, and then that's going to sit down inside the flange as such. They actually, you can see they have these little stops on them over here to keep them from moving around. And you can even actually, you could drive screws through these holes to hold this in place. So now I'm going to wipe this down again with some lacquer thinner, and as you can see, I'm still not where I need to be here. So I'm going to proceed to put another one on. I'm going to wipe it down both sides, and I'm going to get a bead of silicone. And as you can see, or I hope you can see, that now we're up to the proper height, and now we can proceed to set the bowl. So I have two stackers here. I would drive some screws through these holes to keep this in place. In between the stackers and in between the flange, I have a bead of silicone on each level. And now it's just a matter of coming in, and you can most certainly, use the wax. There's nothing that says you can't use wax. I still use it today, but if you want to use your Fluid Master seal here, your rubber seal, actually, excuse me, this is upside down. So again, I folded this horn up because it doesn't fit inside that flange. And again, I would trim this off. I trimmed this off with a razor blade. So then you can proceed to set your bowl on top of here. And you could also use the SANI-SEAL. Again, I flipped this horn up, but as I explained previously, I would cut that off. I would actually cut that off. And the SANI-SEAL is much more substantial, as you can see, but what's going to happen now is you lower the bowl, this is going to squeeze down. So, initially it looks like these bolts are too short, but the weight of the bowl is actually going to smush this down, and you should be able to make it. You want to just check that. You can't just stack infinitely, because at some point you're going to run out of bolt and you won't be able to catch the bolts. You may have to get yourself some extra long bolts. But that's it, guys. So if you have a situation where somebody decides to put a new tile floor in and they don't want to go through the expense of ripping out the old floor, and they're just going to add on top of the floor, and you come in and you find out that, oh my God, the floor is higher, what am I going to do? That's what you do. You go get yourself some stackers, and yeah, I mean, that's how I do it. And again, these will work on PVC flanges. They'll work on brass floor flanges. As a matter of fact, let me get back to the original shot that I was doing, and I'll bring up a brass floor flange, and I'll show you how these will work in a brass floor flange. So again, I'll see you in a minute. All right, back up on the bench, and I just wanted to show you a brass floor flange here. I have this sitting down on top of my demo board. And again, It could be a cast iron flange, it could be an ABS, PVC, lead pipe, whatever the case may be. Most of the stuff I see here in New York City, there's still a lot of lead bends. They're called lead bends. And they have these brass floor flanges soldered to the top of them. And this is predominantly what, I see in my day-to-day activities, working on toilets. And again, either one of these, you can opt to use the wax, which is what I've used most of my life. And naturally, for those of you who are wondering, you have to take the plastic off. You don't use it with the plastic on. Or you can use either one of these two gaskets. And in this case, this is a 4-inch floor flange. And as you can see, it's got a nice big hole in it. So you would come in here with your Fluid Master gasket. And that horn would sit down right inside of that flange really, really nice. And again, I would use this if I had a floor that was really, really level, dead on. There was no deviation in the floor. I don't see a problem with this one. But if you did have a floor that was a little fluky and you had to use a lot of shims to get the bowl to sit steady and sit plumb, then my choice would be the SANI-SEAL version. And again, that would go over the bolts here. Let's get this in here. And that would sit down very nicely inside of this 4-inch floor flange, as you can see. And then the bowl is going to come down on top of this, and that's going to give you a nice, beautiful seal. And folks, that's it. This video is just about done. I just wanted to show you these two options. SANI-SEAL, Fluid Master, they're out there. A lot of people are using them. I personally buy my wax in bulk. A wax gasket you're going to pay maybe a buck and a quarter for, versus 14 versus $9-10. But there you go. These are out there. If you have any questions about this video, feel free. Send me an email, info@bobsplumbingvideos.com. I look forward to seeing you guys in the next video. And as always, happy plumbing. Hey folks, it's Bob here. If you find these videos helpful, please hit that subscribe button. Also, don't forget to claim your free video series, The 7 Things You Shouldn't Have to Pay a Plumber to Do. And to learn more about how to prevent a plumbing disaster in your home, check out my new video course, The No-Brainer Home Plumbing Inspection Checklist. Happy plumbing!